Okay, I just got a button on mine that I'm live on YouTube, so I guess YouTube worked without a glitch. So guess what, guys? We are going to ditch Facebook, and we're going to work with people who actually want to work and let us get some work done. So, hola, if you can let your followers and your fans know, no, I don't pay money to promote anything, but thank you for your nice compliment. I like that you cannot spell. Nope, I don't pay anything to promote. Nope, Periscope can stay on Periscope, but for those on Facebook can go ahead to YouTube. The trolls are already out. They're bored tonight. I guess trick or treat isn't happening soon enough for them. So, we let those guys know on Facebook that we're on YouTube. And everyone should be coming on, and we'll just take a couple more seconds and get started. Thank you, everyone. You already blocked one of them. Thank you. People are incredible. And these are adults, or at least old people, I should say. Nope. Nope, I didn't pay any money. I must just have blessings and favor on my life. I'm sorry you don't. Welcome, welcome to those that want to be here. Those that don't, I hope trick or treat comes early enough for you so that you will have something to do with your miserable life. But for the rest of us, we're going to continue on and do what we are on here to do. And we're going to enjoy our evening. And the trolls are going to be very bored with us because they're not going to get the attention that they're looking for. And we'll just keep moving on. Yeah, I have that for you too. I do have that for you. What am I for Halloween? Let's see. I think I'll be a blocker, and I think I'll block you. That's what I'll do. No such thing as the devil. What are you talking about? You don't believe in the devil. That's why you're on here. All right, guys. Gave him a little attention. I caved in. Let's continue talking about where we left off on last week. And we talked about, is maternal jealousy real? Is it possible that your parent, and particularly your mother, can be jealous of you? And we brought up, just for a little fairy tale story, we talked about Cinderella, which gave an example of a stepmother and how she was very jealous of her stepdaughter and put her through all kind of changes and whatnot. And that makes it real for some of us, but there's still some that have a problem thinking, well, that's a stepmother and she's jealous because of the whole blended family situation and the father. But that's not so. It's still a female jealousy. You're going to help block people on Periscope. Thank you. The anointing draws the gnats. That's what Apostle Bill taught me. He said you have to expect them to come. You have to expect them to follow you because the anointing is like a bug zapper. And when the light comes on, it draws all the bugs into the light. Bugs like the light. So there you go. She says, I love YouTube. YouTube, less trolls. Very good. So maybe this is the way we'll just start building our brand here. We'll just stick on YouTube because the nuts on Periscope it's Halloween. You know, they're trick-or-treating early. And so we kind of like try to figure out, is it true? And it came up because there were a lot of people who were trying to figure out in their counseling sessions with me, is it possible that my mother can be jealous of me? And most people have a problem even admitting, or they carry a heavy guilt, even trying to consider, is it possible that my mom could be jealous? I mean, I don't want to say she's jealous of me, but there's things about me that she's always seemed to be picking on. I'm never good enough. You know, not the normal jealousy where they copy what you have or They try to bring down everything you say. I'm talking about a jealousy where it's narcissistic. It's narcissistic where there's guilt trips, manipulation. They're stealing your friends. They're trying to get any credit that you've earned. They have to remind you that you're not like your other brothers and sisters. And just by these few examples that I'm giving, you probably can tell already, yeah, this is real. I've had it in my life. I've heard friends say it. Wondering how many of you on here are mothers or parents and can admit that maybe I suffer with a little jealousy of my own child. It's an uncomfortable place to be. I have heard of maternal jealousy even with newborns, that a parent will give birth and the mom will have a problem first. We'll deal with the mom, will have a problem with the child because this person is demanding more of their time. They're letting them know when they need things. So it's no longer about me and my schedule and taking care of everyone else's needs when I'm available to take care of their needs. Things have changed, and it's more so now, you know, this baby tells me when it wants to eat. This baby tells me when he or she wants to wake up. This baby tells me when they need to be changed. And a little jealousy comes in that because maybe one, no one's giving me that attention. Two, I have never given myself that self-love. Or three, my mom never gave that to me. So now here I am having to give this to someone else, and I don't know if I'm equipped to do that. And then there's the other side of it. We can swing the pendulum around. Hey, Josh, if that's you, that we can swing the pendulum around the other way. Is it true that men can have issues or can issues arise, such as insecurities, when a woman has a child? It could be their own child. It could be a newborn baby. And it's been highly likely that this has been possible in most cases. And again, it's because of the adjustment in sharing your life, sharing yourself, sharing your spouse, where the dating pretty much ends and now the relationship has kicked into serious mode. This life has to come first. We have to do things because of this life. We must be responsible. We must be accountable because this new life that is in here requires this and demands this. And some people don't see that I chose to keep this child. This is a blessing to have this child, and everything that goes along with it, though it may stretch us, it is still a blessing. So little things like that can arise, and it can also go from little things to pretty severe things where people really have problems embracing what has occurred in their life. As we call it in the HR world, a life-changing event. When you have a child, or you have death in the family, or you purchase a new home, those are called life-changing events. You've probably heard of them when you wanted to add someone to your medical or remove someone from your medical, or you wanted to get your 401k out earlier. You had to have a life-changing event in order to make such changes like that to your status. Now think of it. If corporations, if legal systems can identify those as life-changing events, and it will alter how you're looked at on the job, your benefits, what you're able to take out early or not take out early. If these things qualify as life-changing events, how many life-changing events do you think you have had in your life that you've kind of ignored and never paid attention to them or given them the attention or let's see, I don't want to jump into counseling right away, but not giving them the attention or the admonishment that this thing is big in my life and I've had a life-changing event and I really need to do something about this. Isn't that something? How many things do you ignore in your life that you've never considered a life-changing event because you just adjust your life and do what you have to do? How many times has that happened? So yes, this is real. This definitely can happen. And I did receive a couple of emails. I would like to receive more and find out, has anyone else had this in their life before, and what was this like for you dealing with it? I received a very, very open, honest, transparent email from a woman who was very transparent in her issues of growing up in this situation and in a house like this. And it was, we're still going back and forth in our conversation. And we we're going to get her some help. We're going to get her where she needs to go. But if you have not followed us already, this is session 2. It will be important for you to go back and listen to session 1, because I'm not going to rewind it tonight or embrace too much of it, because we've lost so much time just trying to get a connection in here tonight. So we're talking about maternal jealousy. Can parents be jealous of their children? In particular, moms, can mothers be jealous of their children? And the answer is absolutely yes. And where we left off tonight, I promised that I would give some checklists to look for, so you can determine for yourself if someone is jealous of you, and what are the effect of this maternal jealousy, and what are the effects of what has been lost in your life because you've had a jealous parent instead of an embracing parent, instead of a parent who's building you up and preparing you for life and preparing you for the woes and the challenges that come. Instead, they've kind of held you back from life's learning experience because they wanted to keep you into a place where they have probably been so miserable or so sorrowful most of their life. All right, so tonight we're going to start part 2, and we were talking about the pain of being unloved, because that's exactly what it feels like to someone who suffers under a narcissistic parent, one, and an envy or jealous parent. It all falls in the same category. So the first part of it is they have a pain throughout their adult life of feeling unloved. So in most of the cases of maternal jealousy towards the daughter, we'll stick with that for a topic for now, this daughter is left with little support for who she is as a whole person. Now, mind you, they could be dead and gone by the time you're 18 or 19. You could have moved out, moved in with someone else. It does not matter, because the most important years of your life are the first 13 years of your life up to the most 18, to the age of 18. When this foundation has been set for you, it's like a house. And if you never build a house on that slab or that cement foundation, the foundation is already there. And the foundation comes from your parents or those figureheads who were in that place to raise you, no matter how well they did or how poorly they did. So this person who has suffered this maternal jealousy is not a whole person. And they're trying to hold down a job, get married, have children, stay committed to just regular friendships, and they'll struggle in all these places. Another high place you'll hear before we end tonight is procrastination. This is another part of someone who has been dropped as a child, who has suffered under the hands of poor leadership in parenting, that they really will have a major problem with procrastination. And the only way to break it is not medicine. Medicine is not a cure for any of this. Now, it may help control your racing thoughts. It may help sleep if you've had some trauma and scarring under this type of parenting. It may help you to cause some intoxication to your memories, but there's no cure taking this medication. The best thing you can do is talk it out, write it out, see a counselor, see a pastor, get a coach or a mentor. Whatever is available in your life, whatever you can invest in, but you need to start somewhere. And the least expensive way is journaling or friendship. And you should take advantage of it, because God put these things and these people in place in our life. He set us up from the beginning that we would need each other, so that we can get help from situations like this. And He knew from the beginning of time that there was going to be a fall in family, that there was going to be a dysfunction in families. So He knew that their friendships would be very, very important, and that the church would be very, very important to help us with these life issues, these life-changing events, these life-altering events. Go ahead, so that I can get to work. So with all of that, this person now has grown into an adult, and maybe just by age. It's real. All right, so this person grows up now under narcissistic parents who were jealous of them, and now they're grown adults, and they lack the self-support of being a whole person. So it is important to understand that this poisonous, corrosive envy felt by a narcissistic parent, a mother in particular for this lesson on tonight, is not normal. There's some people that say it's normal. It is not normal. However, It has become the norm in our society. The bar is raised in this person's life now, and it is a destructive bar. The challenge for daughters of narcissistic mothers is to first learn how to recognize and cope with abnormal maternal envy. Your first step, your first step is learning how to recognize. And that, when, in order to recognize, means you have to get you out of the way. You have to stop bearing the burden of these envious adults, these narcissistic parents. You'll have to recognize it, because until you recognize it, you're going to say, well, I found out, through this broadcast or this teaching or this training or through counseling that my mom was narcissist and she had issues of jealousy with me because of unfulfilled things in her life. And so she tried to live through me, but wanted to take the credit for everything that I did in my life. But I don't know what I ever did to her. So you'll make the statement, but then you'll retract it with saying, well, I don't know what I did to her. I don't know why my mother favors my sister over me, but my mother is narcissistic and jealous of me. You'll have the answer, but we will constantly hear the doubt. So your tongue will be split, you'll become unstable, and you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth. Because it is hard to accept the fact that a parent who chose to keep you, who chose to raise you, who was supposed to love you, who had an obligation to raise you up, give you life lessons, to bring you into a secure, stable, functioning home, to prepare you for life on your own, dropped you. They dropped you. And until you can come to that, doesn't mean you have to hate them. It does not mean that you have to hold a grudge against them. You will have unforgiveness, even though you will not even be able to acknowledge that in the beginning. But these are all of the unstable conversations and thoughts and mindset, and the personality will actually be affected, because it is just hard. It is not normal to accept the fact that my mother is jealous of me. Because the hardest part about it is, and it's going to sound confusing here, but the hardest part about it is you'll have to get yourself out of the equation, because it's really not about you. It is about her. It is about her unfulfilled self. But at the same time, because it is all directed towards you, you're going to have to get a mindset. You're going to have to study this thing in order to live it out, because you need to be able to recognize it. The first thing is to recognize it, because it is the truth of recognition that sets you free. You cannot be free from a truth you cannot accept, which means you haven't recognized the truth. So the first thing that you have to do is to recognize it. And you have to put the blame where the blame goes. And the blame stays on them. This is not normal. If you are a daughter or a son of someone who raised you or groomed you, or whose church you sat under, and they're narcissistic, or they are they're wrapped up and warped in jealousy and envy, the first thing you have to learn to do is to recognize it. And that's why I'm getting on here for these 2 sessions. And then you have to learn to cope with the abnormal maternal envy. A common pattern in narcissistic families is that of constant comparison to others. Narcissistic parents will continually compare you to your other siblings, to your other cousins, to the neighbor's kids, to the kids that sit on to the family that sits on the 3rd row in church. They will compare you to fantasy reality TV people. There's a constant comparison to you, to always get you in the mindset that you are never good enough and that you are never going to be good enough. But unfortunately, because of what's instilled in us, we're always set to please our parents. You're always going to try to do this. And this is where the time thief comes in and steals the abundance of your joy, the abundance of your life. And as I said, when I came on Soul Detox, January 2nd, 2017, it will steal networks from you, relationships, marriages, friendships. This thing is a time thief, and it comes to steal from you what is rightfully yours. So you have to learn how to recognize it, so you stop falling prey to it, stop falling victim to it, and stop sounding like a victim to this maternal envy. Did you hear? If not, you'll have to replay it. What else did I add? Where else can there be other jealousies? How about sibling jealousy? I had a wonderful service in church on Sunday, and we talked about the dreamer. and how there was a statement that Joseph in Genesis 37 to about, you can probably read about probably 8 chapters from there forward, where he had sibling jealousy. And when they saw him, they didn't say, oh, there's Joseph. They said, oh, that dreamer. They hated the fact that he had dreams. And they hated the fact that he had dreams about something great happening to his life. Why? Because he had maternal favor with his father, which caused maternal envy. Man, what a catch-22 we're in tonight. But I got to keep rolling. We can get back to this. You can email me your questions. The email is info@SuzanneMHoward.com. Info@SuzanneMHoward.com. I love to read your emails. I will answer all of them. It may take me a little while, but I will answer all of them. And there's a little something I want to give you at the end. But let's keep rolling for the sake of time. A common pattern in narcissistic families is that of constant comparison to other. Envy rears its ugly head in many other contexts as well. How does our family measure up to others, and do we look good enough to the outside world? You know, if there was no envy and jealousy, half of y'all wouldn't buy clothes from the store, wear them, and take them back. You know why you do that? Because you don't feel that you're living up to the par of the income that you're raising and that you're bringing into the family. So you want to go out and dress like something you can't afford. And it's besides the moral issue behind it, it's a psychological issue. It's psychological. I'm going to have to save that. Y'all remind me. I'll finish a detox on that one for you. I don't want to be a detox. I want to be the prescription for the soul. So we call us Soul RX. Amen. But there's soul issues that are not healed that will cause you to do things like that. You're living in a dimension of that which you can't afford. And you're really no different than a thief. Let me go on. Come on. Somebody tell me move on. So, children learn to do this and become adults who are always worried about comparisons. How does that work for you? Is that in you? Is that in your soul? Is that in your family? Were you raised with that? Do you recognize that in other families or other situations? Can you tell when children have had to learn to be compared to people that now they are adults, and in their adult life, they are always worried about comparison? I think one of the names that we talked about for years was living up to the Joneses or trying to be like the Joneses. That's grown up in the house of envy and jealousy. Always trying to live up to the Joneses. How y'all doing? Are y'all with me tonight? Trying to read over here on YouTube. Very good. You're putting notes up. Good. How y'all doing? YouTubers. Periscope. Y'all looking good? All right. Very good. Somebody says good evening. Okay. So this is one of the cues that I have to give you. Do not be spiteful or revengeful, as that destroys you. Let me say it again. As much as they want to provoke every natural, nasty place that is on the inside of every human being on this earth, do not allow them to do this to you. They're still winning. The key for you is to not be spiteful or revengeful, because that will only destroy you. That is not a key. That is actually, you failed that time. So you got to get back and try it again. The envy that is thrown your way does not belong to you. It is a part of your parents' disorder. It does not belong to you. It is a part of their disorder. Envy comes from people's ignorance of or lack of belief in their own gifts. That's where envy comes from. I'm going to read it again for you. I know you got the replay, but I want this to sit in tonight because I want you to wake up a better person already on tomorrow. This is their disorder, not yours. Envy comes from people's ignorance of or lack of belief in their own gifts. That's why people are jealous. And there's been people who've been jealous of someone, and they not only could they never walk in the person's shoes and live out their life, but they really didn't want the person's life. They didn't like what they drove or what they dressed. It's not always about coveting material things. Remember, some people are jealous of you and they don't want you. They don't want your life. They're just jealous because they have a lack of or belief in their own gifts. Jealousy isn't about you, it's about them. Let me move on. The effects of parental jealousy. Listen to the developmental sabotage. Developmental sabotage. While the young girl is growing up, she uses her mother as her primary example of how to be a girl, how to be a woman, a friend, a lover, a wife, and a person in the world. If this same mother is putting her down and jealous of her accomplishments, the child not only becomes confused, but often gives up. So when life gets tough, a curveball comes your way, they say fight or flight. For this individual, it's usually flight because they're in their mind, they are always fighting. They're tired of fighting. They're getting out of anything that has to do with confrontation or fight because they never win. Because they have grown up under this dominating dictatorship of envy, jealousy, and narcissism. So you will give up great jobs and marriages that maybe need a little work, or friendships that maybe are going through I like to call them speed bump. You had a speed bump in your friendship. But conflict isn't a bad thing. Conflict actually reveals underlying issues that, if ignored, can destroy or break something. So instead of ignoring them, put the conflict on the table and let's break it down together. But people who suffer with developmental sabotage will flight in every situation possible. So life is hard for them when they have not had this proper leadership that was supposed to be given to them by having parents. Because it is the job of the parent to fill each developmental stage with nurturing, love, support, and encouragement. With this absence, the daughter finds an emptiness inside of her that she cannot explain. You have to go back and listen to the replay. Go back and listen to the replay. You'll hear all about it. Most children want to please their parents, so when given the mixed message, it is easier and perhaps even safer to do nothing and therefore not expose oneself to continued criticism. This child who is now an adult has grown up under so much criticism, under this unfulfilled adult who has been given the authority, the honor to raise them and to develop them into functioning adults. And because they were unfulfilled, never recognized their own gifts or power or authority that they had in their own life, they become jealous of their children. And what happens to the children is they have mixed messages now, whether they can be successful. Can they finish schooling? Can they hold down a job? Can they build a career? Will they be great wives? Will they be wonderful mothers? They have this unstable bipolar-like mindset going back and forth because they've never had anyone to say, you can do it. You can make it. If you fail, I'm here to support you. You can get back up again. This is all life's lessons. Don't get upset when things don't happen your way. And a lot of children who were not developed correctly because of this insufficiency in a parent or any adult who was again granted the time and the permission to raise them, they're very unsure about many capacities in their life. It doesn't just hit one area of their life. It's throughout their life. So, emotional disconnect is one of the major areas that it hits for them. Now, I want y'all to hear this because a lot of y'all email me about emotions and empathy and sympathy and EQ and, what's a healthy EQ, because a lot of people will try to hide under an IQ, but their EQ is all jacked up. And you will have great conversation with them when there's a topic that they're IQ'd about. But when it comes to some emotional endurance in them, they can't handle it at all. And they almost look like big grown babies because the emotions did not grow with their book knowledge. So there's a developmental sabotage that will lead to an emotional disconnect. Of course, children need to have healthy relationship with both parents. If mother is jealous of the relationship the daughter has with her father, what does the daughter do? Because she wants both of her parents and she deserves both of her parents to love her. Who does she please? How does she handle this delicate balance? More complicating is the question of what the father does. Often, men in relationship with female narcissists choose to cater to the mother so as to maintain the adult relationship. So that leaves a father unable to connect with his daughter. And of course, this leaves the daughter with a lack of emotional connection with both parents and, more importantly, with a man. I, 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 I don't even want to open that up today. And that is major of what we see now going on. So here we go. If you're the child, now an adult, of a narcissist, you will likely struggle with these problems. Number one, there you go. You hit it right on the head. Sometimes mothers live through their daughters, and that's exactly our topic tonight of what we've seen it. You're dead on. Thank you for that nice comment. Number one, these adults will now have a codependency in other relationships. A codependency in other relationships. You're an adult now and you're unable to function on your own. Someone else's bad day becomes your bad day. Your boss is not operating, functioning right, and you can feel that heavy burden, dark energy in your office, and it will ruin your whole day. When you get off work, you're still jacked up from it, where most people could just say, all right, let me ride out. So-and-so's having a bad day today. Codependent people are dependent on the relationships that are around them, whether it be friendship, domestic, career-wise, work, higher institutions of education. Everything around them is built on the relationships, and they're dependent on relationships. And when relationships aren't well, it sets the thermostat in their house. So it throws them off. If someone's not happy with them, if someone is upset with them, if someone is very happy with them, this sets them off because they've learned to gauge their self-love. They've learned to gauge their day. They've learned to gauge their how they look at themselves, how adequate they are or how inadequate they are based on the relationships in their life, because they first learned that in the relationship with their adults. Does that make sense to you? All right. Another area that you will likely struggle in if you are the child of this jealous narcissistic parent, you will have a weak sense of self. A weak sense of self. You see, people will get funny on you when you say, I'm only human. And they'll say, well, especially, for Christians, they'll say something like, but you're not human first, so don't fall into humanity first. But we are human. And we're having a human experience no matter how spiritual you are. And I do agree that we were spiritual beings first. That is the belief that I have. However, we're still having a human experience. And when the soul has suffered trauma as a child, it interrupts a pattern in our life, and it causes a weak sense of self as an adult. And what a burden that puts on your friends, your pastors. If you get married, your spouse, it puts such a heavy weight on them because you have such a low sense of self, that this puts a burden on those that are in your life. And a lot of men will tell me, I love her, she's a good woman, but I just can't take more of her because it feels like I'm carrying her emotionally, I'm carrying her physically, and then sometimes I'm carrying her financially. And most often because some people end up so chronic from this that they suffer oppression, depression, medications, and again, bipolar activities, and so on and so forth. The third point, poor interpersonal boundaries and an inability to say no. Poor interpersonal boundaries and an inability to say no. I have a few young teenagers that keep up with our broadcasts, and they said it's really helping them and it's making them stronger in their mind, in school and in class, and as they go on to college. To no one ever told them that they can say no. I had such a great conversation with a young woman last week that I decided I'm going to do a broadcast on it. But she was sharing with me, no one told me my virginity was special. And I looked at her because how many times have anyone ever told you that? No one ever told her that her virginity was special, and she cried and she broke down. And it was a burden, but it was a relief for her to be able to say that. Why didn't my mom tell me that my virginity was special and sacred? And even if I went against her, at least in my mind, there would have been this other truth, this other thought, this other option that my virginity is special. So we have to be mindful of the young women around us to let them know your virginity is special. And that's why by next week I'm hoping to be on sex and the soul and the impacts that sex has on the soul and the soul has on sex. And it's also for young women. If you have young daughters or nieces, I'd invite you to have them with you and watch it together, or send it over to them and let them watch it with you. So poor interpersonal boundaries and an inability to say no. Chronic guilt and shame. You live with chronic guilt or shame. Self-loathing, self-loathing, emptiness, trust issues, inability to express or even handle emotions, inability to express or even handle emotions, anxiety or depression, and lastly, another example, being a people pleaser, because you were never able to please the first most important person in your life. So the rest of your life, you continue trying to please. It's almost like a high. I've learned that those who use drugs, that first taste, that first hit gives them such a euphoric feeling that every time they go to get high, they're getting high to get the rush from that first feeling, which of course never happens again. Well, this is what happens with people pleasers. They were never able to please their parents, so it's a rush to continually try to please people. And when they get it right, they feel good because they're codependent on those relationships. So their relationships actually become their addictions. And the relationships actually become, as I stated, the thermometer of what their temperature is going to be for that day. Because this is how they get their self-esteem. This is how they have a self-worth. This is their self-love. It's determined on the meter of people. This is some heavy stuff, y'all. I have a little bit here on incest, but I'll deal with that after. But if this is you and you were raised by a narcissistic parent, here's some simple steps that I want to help you with before we lose this broadcast tonight. Just simple. And these are what I would actually do with you. If you signed up for sessions with me, I would do these with you, and I would be the coach to keep you accountable to them. If you have self-discipline, try to work these out on your own. If you can get an accountability partner, if you have a strong friend. It's hard when it's friends because friends tend not to be as honest because they don't want to hurt your feelings. Find someone who can hurt your feelings and you still respect. So the first thing is we talked about recognizing, right? First you have to recognize. You have to learn how to cope. It is a must and is a part of your own recovery. You have to learn how to cope. Why? Because confronting the narcissist, number 2, does no good. Confronting the narcissist does no good. All right, I'm reading some of your comments. Sounds so familiar. My stepmom wasn't the nicest when I was young. I've heard so much about that. And I empathize with you. And I will be praying with you. I see your first name is Christine. Bless you for being on here with us tonight. So number 1, how to cope is a must because it has to become a part of your recovery. Number 2, confronting the narcissist does no good. Number 3, you have to release yourself from the confusion and see the envy for what it is. And lastly, number 4, to do this, you must recognize your own good and your own strength. You have to make a list. 100 things I like about myself. 100 things I love about myself. And listen, it may be very, very hard for some of us. Some people will be like, 100. I can think of 1,000 things I love about myself. But there are people out there that can't name 3 things. I counsel them. I coach them. They cannot name 3 things that they like about themselves. And sometimes they can't even name 3 things that they like in the earth. They live through their spouses. They live through their children. You ask them, what's your favorite TV show? Well, I don't really watch TV. What do you really like to eat? Well, I have to cook for the family all the time, so I don't even really enjoy eating. Okay, what's your favorite book? I don't have time to read. Okay, what's your favorite color? I don't really have a favorite color. And you find out after a while, they really have listened very little to their own selves, paid the least amount of attention to their own selves. So start with writing a list of 100 things that I like or love about myself, depending where you are in this teaching that we're on tonight. And you may have to go to close friends and ask them, what do you like about me? And write those down. Add those to your 100 and put a star next to it until you are able to like those things about yourself, until you are able to appreciate those things that your friends and co-workers appreciate about you, until that becomes a part of your self-love. Write down what they say to you and put a little star so you will recognize, I didn't say that. But as you begin to love this about, they love your smile when you walk in the room and you hate your teeth. They love the fact that you're always punctual, and all you can think about is when you get there, am I going to look good enough? Is everyone's mood going to be happy tonight? Is this going to be a good night tonight? You lose the whole moment of the essence that you bring into that group. So ask them, and you'll be surprised what your friends tell you. I had to do a report for school, and they were asking to what were your favorite topics that you like to study, so on and so forth. Then they said to ask people what they admired most about you. And I asked the 3 people who spend the most time around me, and I was surprised to hear what they said about me. It lifted my spirit, it lifted my mind, and it encouraged me to go a little further. They said things that I'd never thought of myself and never even knew that they saw that in me. So it's nice to go sometime and just ask people for a little check-in. And, they may want to give you the list on the other side, about what you need to correct. But I'm not working that part right now. I'm working on the self-love section of me. So I just need to know the things that you like, or things that you appreciate, or things that you notice about me. And that's fair enough for now. Okay? So your recovery process allows you to take the time to be an individual so that you no longer are defined by anyone but yourself. Using self-compassion, self-understanding, and working your recovery is worth the time and energy. Creating your own exciting and significant life is gratifying, and the more you tune into the woman you were meant to be, the better she feels. When I opened up, I couldn't get on YouTube or Facebook, but I was sharing with Periscope viewers about the movie Precious. And the least problem that Precious's mom had was jealousy and envy. I mean, that was schizophrenic, bipolar, narcissist. She had a whole cesspool of it all. But if you haven't seen that movie, I'm not going to recommend that you watch it, because it will pull out everything in your heart. And if you are not one that cry, you will definitely feel some sort of emotion in that movie, because it's something I'd never seen in my life, and it breaks my heart to think that things like this even go on while the rest of us are living a life that we complain about, and not nearly suffering like the young lady in that movie. But, it was amazing to see her strength, her pride in her children that were born out of incest. Loved her children. Even the one that the mom had the nerve to call Mongo, because the child was a mongoloid, or looked like one, because the 2 children that Precious had were by her father, who slept with Precious in the same bed with her mother. I mean, it was a cesspool of things, but it's a perfect soul detox, soul RX movie to understand how poisonous and sick the soul can go when one person is not healthy and they're raising other, or they're responsible for other people's lives. How sick the darkness can go. It's awful. But my joy in that movie, if anything, to take away, was the strength that she had at the end of the movie, when she got the worst news of her life after living the worst life someone could. She got the worst news of her life. She was so grateful to have an apartment and to have her children, and she loved her children despite the situation that they were born through. It's a remarkable strength this young lady had. And in most cases, that is not so when you're raised under a jealous or narcissistic parent. I see Janie. Thank you very much. She says, this is good stuff. Thank you guys so much. All right, let me keep going so we can save time here. I lost a lot of it. I'm going to cut out the beginning when we were trying to get our connection, and it'll be up on, well, it's on YouTube already, so I don't have to upload it. All right, so to begin the process of soul healing, you should start doing some of the following. One, stop hoping that your narcissistic, jealous parent will change. You can never change them if they did. You will never change them. It will definitely not come from you. Number two, allow yourself to grieve the parent you never had. I wish I had time to spend on that point right there tonight. Allow yourself to grieve the parent you never had. That means you're going to have to recognize, accept, and cope with the fact that your parent, in a sense, is alive, but not alive in your life. And you have to grieve that. That is important. Understand that you have been raised to suppress, absolutely, Lady Eve, you have been raised to suppress and deny your feelings. Now is a good opportunity to slowly open up to those years of repressed feelings. You can do this by seeking traditional psychotherapy, some alternative methods, of healing, pastoral counseling, coaching, advising. I mean, there's life coaches popping up by the dozens all over the world. Absolutely. And that's the most familiar way, is a husband being narcissist. But we are, just like they are discovered now that women are actually serial killers as well. And that's maybe why it took them so long discovering it, because women are so good with things like hiding things, that women are also very narcissist. That there's not as statistics prove that men are at a higher rate, but there is a good rate of women who are narcissists. We're used to hearing about the men, but most times it starts in the childhood. It usually takes a narcissist to raise a narcissist. And we can go into that a little bit more next time. But thank you for your comment. So we're going to seek some psychotherapy, pastoral counseling, life coaching, or just some type of coach to keep you accountable to the 4 steps that I already gave you. You can start working on your own. Learn to take care of your own needs. Learn to take care of your own needs through the practice of self-love. Look up self-love. What is it? And find out, do you have it? And then learn to practice that. Reconnect with your inner child. Learn how to care for that inner child who was neglected of a loving, normal as possible parental guidance and leadership and love that they should have had but never did. And they call this the inner child work. Keep an active journal in which you self-reflect. This will help you become more self-aware. Self-awareness is very important. Explore what your soul is thinking and sharing throughout the day. Do you understand that when you get in your car, when you wake up in the morning, the radio or the TV's on, you stop at a quick mark and you get gas, or you purchase something inside, and you get back in, the radio's on, you get to your job, and either you have earphones on, or you're taking a walk and you got your beats on, or you're you work for a company where you're answering a phone, or people are around you talking, that you take in more conversations in a day than you actually pay attention to yourself in a year. It has been stated that we have about 50,000 thoughts a day, and we really remember between 4 and 5. So what are we thinking about all day? What is our soul talking about all day long that we miss? Having a journal will help you to pay attention a little bit more to some of the thoughts that are coming out of you, like heartburn. Express your emotions in a healthy way, particularly any anger that you have inside. You can also join support groups. They're all over the place. You can find them on Facebook. And while you may feel broken, it's important to remember that you are not broken. You are not. Your soul can never be broken. Not broken, but it can be traumatized. And God help us, it can split in half, which we don't want. But you can heal from this. There's still time. Part of this lesson and everything that is triggered up in you, and the pictures and the memories that's going to come from this, is going to tell you And your soul is going to constantly remind you, either taking over some of your dreams, taking over some of your thoughts, taking over some of your conversation. Your soul is going to constantly be like, hello, hello, hello. Like that little baby that wants to tell you when uh, the baby wants to be fed or changed or coddled. Your soul is the same way. It's going to do something. And it's going to take over some thoughts, or you're going to be heavy daydreaming, but it's going to let you know, look, we've got an issue in here, and you're ignoring it. And I need you to take care of this issue because you're in your 20s and your 30s and your 50s now, and you're still ignoring what happened to us at 7 and 12, and I want to deal with this. So no matter what your childhood was like, it's still possible to heal and reunite with the source of unconditional joy, wonder, and love that is really there waiting for you in the best life that you have now. So I'm just going to look for a moment, see if there's any comments. Grieve not having a parent who is alive. That is my testimony. Never heard anyone agree with my methods on this. Child of narcissistic parent. Learn this through self-love by the way of the Holy Spirit. Very good. Very good. And I agree with you 100%. Absolutely. And I say work it. You're not broken. I want to thank everyone for being on here tonight. And for those who take these broadcasts serious, those who share it. I just saw a young woman share it. Thank you for those that give the super hearts. I apologize that Facebook just would not be in agreement with us. But I want you to know, that's right, Maria. You can be crushed down, but you can never be broken. All right, Darlene Washington. So please email me. Email me. I love reading your emails. They're so encouraging to me. They're inspiring. They also tell me some of the needs that are out there, some of the questions that people have, some of the traumas that have hit families early on that are destroying families and destroying the children that are a product of that family. I love reading your emails. I'm not looking for material, but it's important to be relevant when we get on these broadcasts that are available to us, to be relevant with what people are going through. So it is helpful to know some of your questions, some of your testimonies. And if you want me to share your testimony, and of course I would never mention your name unless you give me permission, tell them, I want you to share this testimony, and please keep me nameless, but this testimony I think will be a blessing to others. And I like how Janie had just shared that she agrees that she has had to grieve not having a parent who is alive. And that's one of the hardest steps. And it's not really the first step. Many take it as the first step, but it's not always the first step. But it is the hardest step, because it is hard for you to let go sometimes and accept the fact this parent, this sister may never be in my life. And that has to become okay with me. How do you wrap your mind around, I may never have this father. I may never have it. And most don't. And they go through people pleasing. And I mean, I could tell you stories for days. And a lot of guilt. You know, holidays come and you think they're alone, and they're not alone. They've got a whole life being fulfilled. They just can't fulfill it with you. And if you will, I want someone on here tonight, before we disconnect, to just tell me, what is envy? What is envy and jealousy all about? I gave you a good statement on that tonight. I said envy comes from what? Let me see what you guys have for me. Show me that I have delegates on here, and I have people who are really interested, or, you know, have some feedback on this. That's right, Maria. Your soul can never be broken. I see R. Cherie says journaling, get a coach that can mentor you. Makes a difference. Someone else says you're reading my mail tonight. Yeah, we had a lot of trolls on Periscope tonight. Envy comes from a lack of belief in one's own gift. So it's really not even about you. But, you know, anger is something that is projected. So they have to project anger. And in some way, as selfish as it sounds, it's kind of healthy, because someone who's not projecting anger, suppressed anger, actually causes depression. And you see a lot in 2018 where people are committing suicide as if life has absolutely no value at all. But I thank you all for coming on here tonight. I will be starting my topic, I believe, next Monday, Sex in the Soul. And one of the messages of this book is how we have learned to become unattached from our souls in order to be sexually free in the world that we live in now. So if I have had to become detached from sex, unattached from my body, my soul, in order to stay in multiple relationship with multiple partners, what happens to me when I marry or I meet my life partner and I'm having attachment issues with them, or I'm having issues connecting with them, or the great sex that I had when I was single and promiscuous, I can't have with my spouse. We're going to go deep on attachment and detachment. You're going to learn about the soul. You're going to learn about diseases, how some diseases are actually carried and passed on, but never actually manifested in either a male or female's body. We're going to go in on this thing. So I hope you're all ready for me. Bring your notes, your pads, bring your ideas, your questions, your comments. I'm interested. I'm in love with what I do, and I'm thankful for such a audience that has been given to me for these over a year and a half now. So my time is up. I'll be looking forward to your comments and your email. And again, thank you for being on with me tonight. Tag a friend, share it in their Facebook Messenger, share it on their pages. Let them know that we're coming back on. We have a regular schedule now. My schedule has slowed down, and let them know that I prayed for you tonight, and that I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. Thank you so much. God bless you, and have a wonderful night.